Well, I'm so excited to sit down with you today to chat all things lending, all things financials, all things real estate. So, welcome to my YouTube channel,
Thanks for
Steve
having me. Yeah, I'm
Chakerian.
super excited to chat. I know we have a lot of stuff in common with our faith and our families and our business and finance and everything. So I'm excited to see where the conversation leads.
I know exactly.
Yeah,
I was looking at your Instagram profile the other day and I saw it was like faith, family, fitness, and finances or something to that
all the
extent. I'm like,
F's.
all the F's. I love
Yeah,
it. The
yep,
4 pillars. That's all you need.
yeah.
So, all right. So, for anyone that doesn't know you, tell us just a little bit about yourself. I know you're local here in the Temecula Valley area. So, give us a little
Yeah,
tidbit.
the little tidbit. So we've lived down here for about 5 years now. Me and my wife, Kelly, been married for 12 years, and we have 4 little boys.
The
So
most beautiful family.
they keep us busy
The
and on our
cutest.
toes and the
Yeah.
biggest blessings. And so they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So they're all in baseball right now. And so
Yes.
it's
I heard they're doing travel baseball now too, or
They,
competitive. I don't know the world.
it depends who you ask,
Okay.
but they might be on the All-Star team, so we might be playing a couple months into the summer.
Oh
So
my
excited
goodness.
for that opportunity for them. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's all fun stuff. So yeah, I've been down in Marietta, Temecula area for a couple years. My office is in downtown Marietta, so
Yeah.
yeah, getting connected down here, and
Yeah.
we love it down here. Every time
It's so good.
we go back home, we're like, "Oh, we love where we live, so we're really happy
It's
here.
such a testament too of all the buyers that I feel like have been moving into the area recently, to the Temecula Valley. It's everyone moves here for a little bit more space, more for affordability, the lifestyle and the culture here. And so you're obviously a testament to that because you moved down here about you said 5 years ago. And I mean, do you not just love it here? Is
Love
it
it.
not
No,
amazing?
we absolutely love it. I mean, great community, great schools, more
Yeah.
affordable. We moved from LA County and we got twice as big of a house, twice
yeah.
as big of a piece of property.
Yeah.
And the kids are in great schools right down the street, and a ton of great churches down here also.
Yeah.
So
It checks all the boxes.
it checks all the boxes.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. It's so fun to help people coming in from out of the area that are kind of newer to Temecula. It's my favorite part. My clients know this because I get so excited to tell them all about Temecula. And if someone doesn't know, where should we go eat? I'm like, oh, well, what's
I
the
got a
mood?
spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, what type of food do you want? What's the atmosphere? What's the vibe? And then
Yeah.
I'll tell you. But anyways, it's just so fun. So, okay, so the lending side, talk to us about that. What should home buyers know? Say they're just starting out, they don't know where to start. It's kind of a broad question to start with, but what would you say to kind of first-time home buyers, or maybe they just haven't purchased in a while? What does that look like?
I think it's a great question to start with because that's the start of the process,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where should they start?
Yeah.
And I think there's not really a black and white black and white answer in my
Yeah.
opinion. I think if you're really close to a realtor and you're really good friends with a realtor, I would say start there.
Yeah.
If you're friends with a lender, then I would start there. If you don't know where to start, talk to your friends and family.
Yeah.
And see who they've worked with in the past and if they've had a great experience. So I think you decide who you trust and start there. I mean, what would you say
Yeah,
about that?
I love that. Start with who you trust and go from there because it's so important. It's like, I get two sides to it. Either buyers come in and they've never worked with a lender before, so they don't know where to start. And then
Yeah.
obviously perfect, here you go. But then the flip side to that is sometimes like, oh, it's same thing with real estate. It's, my brother's cousin something or other is a lender. They'll help us. And then honestly, it's like, if we do end up going that route, I mean, of course, it's the buyer's decision. I try to educate and give them at least some options, but those are some tricky deals. The lenders make or break the deal. They are so important to the process. I mean, I have a deal right now that's getting delayed because of the lender. It happens, and that's okay. It's
happens,
all okay.
yeah.
We get it done, and everything's all good. But they are such an intricate part to the process that is. I love being able to refer my clients to good, solid, trustworthy lenders that will get the deal done and do it with such high integrity because it does, make all the difference in a transaction. So
Who it just goes to show who you work with matters.
It does.
No matter what you're doing in life, who
Oh, yeah.
you work with matters. And kind of a tangent, but you are most like the 5 people that you hang around with
Yeah.
most, right?
Yeah.
I love that saying. So
it's true.
yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, obviously, on the realtor side of things, I know the good lenders to work with. I know who can get the job done. Obviously, you being one of them. Honestly, what I respect about you the most is just your such a high integrity. I know that you are so transparent with clients, and you also are so, you're very much like me. I feel like we're workaholics, where we're always working to just, educate ourselves, the self-improvement. We're always looking to better ourselves for our clients, right? So I love that like continual growth. And it's good to have someone that can kind of keep up with that. I know we were talking about that recently.
Yeah.
Just finding other people in the industry that can kind of keep up with us.
And that goes back to what I just said, like surrounding yourself with people who are going to push you in that direction. And kind of encourage you to keep growing and learning. And who you work with totally matters.
So when people are shopping for a lender to work with, what are some of the questions maybe that they should consider asking? Because they don't even know, like, how do they know if you're a good lender or not,
Yeah, I think one of the biggest hurdles that we have to get over is whether the time is right now or whether the time is right in 3 to 5 years. Like, I feel like people are fearful to have a conversation. And that's what kind of is one of the biggest roadblocks up front. So as long as we can just kind of lower that hurdle and just have a conversation, whether it's right now or in the future, it doesn't matter when, we will help you get on that path if you're not ready.
I think sometimes, based on the conversations I've had with potential buyers, I think they think it's so serious. Oh, like talking to a lender is so serious. I'm not ready yet. I'm not committed yet. Like, it's almost like a scary thing.
Like you're going to court or something.
Yeah, it's like this, some big thing. And it's like, no, it's just a conversation to just answer some questions and get that process started again, whether that's right now or if that's just putting a plan in place for the future. I think I want to kind of help break that wall down a little bit and make it more approachable, especially someone like you. You are so approachable, easy to have a conversation with. You're so educational. So, you're not there to make someone feel stupid because they've never purchased a home before. You're there to educate them and help them through that process.
I might look scary, but I'm really not as
You're
scary
really
as
tall. But no,
I've been on a number of initial client consultations with you, and I think we're very similar. Like you do a really good job of learning about the client. What are their goals over the next 5 or 10 years with real estate? What's important? What are they looking for? What's important to them? And I think that's the difference between like a realtor who is just functional, doing tasks, checking the boxes to get someone into a house. Obviously that's important and that's the end goal. But in order to have a good experience, we have to understand what's important to them so that we can make that happen. So
it just boils down to being relational over transactional. Like that's bottom line. We're very relationship driven. Even most of my clientele, I joke with them, like, we become best friends through the process because it is such an kind of intimate process, right? You're going through, it's a major life change, a major event in your life. And it's an exciting event. So,
it's super exciting, but it's also it can be really scary too.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Like you're taking on, it's probably the biggest purchase of your life, maybe the biggest debt that you have, the biggest payment. So I totally get it. Like I was just talking to a friend this week and remembering when we first bought our house. You can probably relate to this, but when we first bought our house, it was a little scary. Like we knew that it was a good decision, but because of those other things that I just mentioned, it's a lot. So you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing and that you're working with people, you're fully educated in the process. And so I think that's super important. Yeah. But I mean, how was it for you when you first bought your place?
Honestly, it's so funny that you asked because I try to take so we purchased in 2016. And I would try to, take myself back to that. Like, what was I thinking at the time? I think because I was in the industry, it didn't scare me. So I feel like I don't have the best answer to that in a sense, like, not as relatable because I just was already so used to the process, But I think it's important for anyone in the industry to kind of go through the process every so often just to remind ourselves of what it is like for our clients and to be in it ourselves because it is a unique perspective to have. But I guess, honestly, I was mostly just excited because I understood the process itself and knew just the value of home ownership so that I was beside myself so excited to be able to purchase a home. Like, we own this. Like, that feeling, that accomplishment. I mean, again, I talked with Jessica about that is the American dream. Jessica Foote, our broker here at Native. That is the American dream, is home ownership. So to be able to have a piece of that is so fulfilling.
Totally. And I think that's the dream for 95+% of people. We do a lot of presentations on our team and reporting data and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And we have I can picture a chart that we have showing different income brackets in the U.S. and home equity build over your life is a majority of people's net worth.
Yes.
And so it just goes to show that, real estate has been such a good investment over the past.
Absolutely.
And I know you're super into like real estate investing and finance. And, so one thing that we do is we're holistic. We don't just, get you pre-approved and give you a pre-approval letter and tell you like, okay, good luck. We do a full financial checkup, and I want to know about all the debt that you have. And obviously the goal is to pay that down over time so we can help put a plan in place, and talking with people through their budget and, what they're qualified for and what they're comfortable with are two totally different numbers, right? Yeah. And so really making sure that somebody is purchasing a home and they feel comfortable with the purchase, because I don't want all their paycheck going to pay off their mortgage, because I want them to be able to invest for retirement and save and enjoy their life. And really buying a home is just part of that dream. Obviously it's the American dream, but it's part of a family's life. Yeah. So I think that's super important.
I'm so glad you touched on that, because like you said, you really do have a holistic approach. Again, you're not just transactional. Oh, let me just get this loan out. Boom, boom, boom. It's like, no, you're looking at the bigger picture there. What are the best interests for your clients, and giving them more of a perspective, kind of bird's idea of their financial goals and what that looks like. So I think that's so important. And again, that just goes to show, that's you taking that extra step. That's not every typical lender, And
you're going to do the same thing. You're not just going to disappear after they close on their home, right? Like, I think our ultimate goal is to win a client for their life.
Oh, absolutely.
And the way that we do that is by gaining their trust, delivering and giving them exceptional service, and then helping them build wealth through their life.
Exactly.
Right? And so we believe in like a circle of wealth team, and there's a number of different professionals that you need on your team to help you build wealth over time, right? So like any couple that come to mind are like a financial advisor or a really good CPA, obviously a good realtor, a good lender, good insurance to make sure your assets are covered, and a good lawyer.
Estate planner too. Make sure you get that trust in place.
Exactly.
Always.
Yeah, that's one of the notes that I have. And so if you don't have someone in that circle of wealth team, then I think both of us are great resources to be able to connect them with those other different people.
Exactly. It's having all those key people in your life, and if you don't know where to find them, that's okay. Find that first person that you trust, like you said, and we can help kind of gear them towards that.
And we're problem solvers, so that's one thing that I love about what I do is the guidelines are always changing, and there's always it sounds like it's just cookie cutter, but everything is just a little bit different.
Yes.
And so being able to solve problems, like I grew up, my mom made me do puzzles. She allowed me to do puzzles my whole life. So I love doing puzzles.
There you go. So that's why you're such a problem solver.
What I do is just, it's I get to solve a puzzle every day, and it's fun.
Mental note, I'm going home and making my kids do puzzles.
Yeah, there you go.
So they can be, strategists later in life. No, you touched on something that you really help clients with, and I know there's a few components that a lot of buyers find as hurdles, and some of them, of course, are interest rates, which we can touch on, but also credit and debt kind of management. And something I really enjoy about your process is you have not only you and your team that are able to help with that, but you also have resources for that too. So if a home buyer is coming in, they're like, oh, I have way too much debt, or my credit's way too low, I can never buy a house. Well, we have resources for that. So can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. So there's a couple different parts of getting approved that are important that we look at. Like you mentioned, we'll look at your income, we'll look at your debt, we'll look at your credit score, and then we'll look at what funds you have available for a down payment. And so those are really the big four things. And so we'll work on all of those. Like there's times where someone just doesn't make quite enough money, or maybe their debt is too high and they need to pay some debt down. Like you mentioned, we have a great credit repair. Maybe that's the wrong terminology. What's the right term?
I know.
She's going to kill me.
She's going to kill you if you say that. Edit this out.
Nonprofit credit consultant.
Oh gosh, credit. It wasn't credit management.
We're in big trouble.
I know. Oh shoot. Credit.
I think the whole point is we can help if your credit score is not in a good place, or if you have collections, or that you need work on the credit side, we can definitely help with that. Like that's a hurdle that stops a lot of people from even having a conversation. And so she's been able to help clients who have been in the low 500s get up to the low 600s, and just like a very short amount of time.
That's what I was most impressed by. But really, I mean, it could be just a turnaround time of a few months. Could you imagine? I mean, if so many potential home buyers just started by having that conversation, and again, breaking down that wall of barrier, right? Making you more accessible to book those one-on-ones, to book those buyer consults, just to have those conversations and know what's possible, that they could actually be in a position to buy a home in 3, 6 or so months.
Totally.
So I think it's
very
fantastic.
rare to get someone who checks all the boxes the very first time that we have a conversation.
Yeah.
So everyone needs a little bit of work and a little nudge to kind of just get there.
Exactly.
So it's really not that big of it.
Worst case scenario, you have a conversation and maybe the buyer's just not quite ready yet with, a few certain things in their financials, but at least then they'll have the know-how to know what to do next. They'll know what those steps look like. I know I shared recently our story of, I think back in like 2015. Yeah, it was 2015 that we first looked into purchasing a home, and we got technically denied, the first time because we just didn't have the experience. 2 years in our careers at that
2 years
time.
Work history, yeah.
And so, the lender looked and he's like, yeah, we just can't make that happen quite yet. But then we knew it, we just had to have a little bit more time on our side.
Yeah.
And then boom, we were able to purchase. So
one little trick that a lot of people don't know about the 2-year work history is a lot of times that we can use your education. So if you went to college and
for that
studied
same industry
nursing or something, and then now you're a nurse, even if you just started, a couple months ago, we can use that education.
See? This is why we have you on the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some common mistakes that you see buyers making?
At what point in the process?
That's a good point. Where do we start? I guess, let's start at the beginning. Are there any myths that you kind of want to bust from the beginning? I know we already kind of busted a few in this conversation, but any mistakes that you see buyers make? I guess we'll start at the beginning.
Any mistakes? I mean, once somebody is in escrow, so right, you found a home that you love and you've made an offer and they've accepted your offer and we open escrow, right? We're in this 20, 30-day window where there's inspection and appraisal and the underwriters confirming everything. When we're in that period, it's really important that you don't quit your job.
Yeah, right?
You don't want to quit your job.
You need to be able to pay for the house.
There's been times where someone has gone out and bought a car or, they take on new debt. And so those things are the big ones that kind of jeopardize your loan approval and what you're qualified for. So doing stuff like that, usually when you're in escrow, I tell people just kind of pump the brakes a little bit. I know you're excited to go buy a couch, but don't go finance a bunch of new furniture or something like that. Let's wait till we close first, and then you can go do your thing.
Exactly.
So those are the. Do you have any that come to mind?
Yeah, no, I love that you touch on that because again, it just goes to the education piece that we have because we, as a lender and a realtor, we work hand in hand throughout the process. So I think if both of us are doing our job to educate our clients as much as possible, then it just serves everyone, right? So I think I'm glad that you touched on that. No big purchases or financing anything during the escrow process. We really want to make sure that time period is very protected. And if you have any questions, just reach out to the lender directly to get that kind of stamp of approval before making any purchases.
Yeah. And there was one guy who we were in escrow and he was doing a refinance and he's like, dude, Steve, I messed up. I just got a new car. And I was like, okay, well, all right, let's figure out what to do next. Stuff happens, life happens. And so we'll just figure out a way.
Yeah, exactly. There you go with that problem solving.
Yeah, we'll figure out a way.
Okay, so what do you think, or what do you wish more buyers understood?
That's a good question. Maybe going back to your original question on where to start the process, and we talked about who do you trust. Let's start with who you trust. I think we would both agree, you start with who you trust, but at some point in the process, at you as a realtor, so let's just role play for a second.
Yeah.
If I come to you and say, I want to go buy $1 million house, what are you going to say?
Let's go. No,
let's go.
No, I mean, naturally, my go-to is always more questions. I'd be asking more questions. Okay, what are you actually looking for? What is the motivation behind this? Okay, and then once we get through kind of those series of questions, then we talk about, okay, is this cash or financed? Okay, do you already have a lender? Do you need a referral for one? So we kind of just start that conversation and see where it goes. And then if it does lead to the lender, and if I'm referring, yourself, for example, to a new buyer, we just have to have that conversation and make sure they're pre-approved and ready to go.
Yeah, at some point in the process, you're going to need to talk to a lender and cover those four main things. So we call it a discovery call.
Exactly.
What do you call yours?
Discovery call. Sometimes
Okay.
I'll call it a dream call because we're
Okay.
talking about your dreams.
Yeah, a buyer consultation kind of thing. And in 15, 20 minutes, I'm a nerd, a spreadsheet math nerd. So on 99% of my buyer consultations or discovery calls, got my AirPods in and I have my spreadsheet open and I'm taking notes and typing numbers in. So after about 15 minutes, I got all the formulas worked out.
Yeah.
After about 15 minutes, I have a really good idea what they're pre-qualified for.
Yeah.
So pre-qualification is we've talked for 10, 15 minutes on the phone about numbers, right?
Yeah.
The next step in the process is the pre-approval or getting a pre-approval letter, which most people are familiar with. And to get that, you need to fill out an application and send over some pay stubs and driver's license, and we'll check your credit and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the pre-approval stage that most people are familiar with. And then at Churchill Mortgage, we have a couple different programs where we go one step further and do the full underwriting review, which helps their offer stand out where, versus a normal pre-approval letter. So we call that our closing guarantee letter, just to show that it's, a little bit extra.
I want to touch on something. I think this is so important to talk about because, again, just continuing the conversation of why it's so important of who you work with for a lender. Okay, if you're thinking about it from the seller side, the listing side, when you're selling your home as the home seller, you want to know that the buyer coming in is a strong buyer. You want to know that the buyer coming in is going to close with certainty. Right. So if I'm the listing agent, if I'm looking at multiple offers and I know, like, and trust this lender because I know he can get the job done, who do you think has a stronger offer? Then there's like this, I don't want to call people out, but there's just the other ones that kind of blend into the mix, right? You're naturally going to, it has to obviously be a strong offer to begin with, but that lender is going to verify that buyer. I already know the deal's going to be closed, and that brings certainty for my home seller. So it's so important to have that piece to the puzzle. And like you touched on, you have your guarantee program. So speak to that a little bit more of what that looks like.
Yeah, essentially. So yeah, exactly like you said, as a listing agent or as a seller, you want as much certainty that the house is going to close, right? You don't want to accept an offer and then something happened during the escrow process.
Yeah, the lender can't close the deal.
And then you have to fall out of escrow or get delayed or start the whole process again. So a lot of times our offers aren't the highest, right? A lot of people think the highest offer is the best, but as you just alluded to, it's not necessarily always the case, right? The strongest offer is the best. And
that you have certainty will close.
That's where we try and position all of our buyers with that upfront approval. Yeah. We're so confident in the process too that it comes with a $10,000 seller guarantee, which is every time I tell that to people, their eyes kind of pop and like, wow, you guys. So Churchill will pay the sellers $10,000 if the house falls out of escrow because of the loan approval that we did. And honestly, one of the best parts of this program is we can secure their interest rate for 90 days while they're looking for a home. So typically when you get a pre-approval, right, interest rates are like the stock market. They fluctuate all day, every day. Last week, we just had a bad inflation report come out. Interest rates are here, and now they spiked, 0.5% up, right? And so when interest rates go up, that impacts your affordability and your purchasing power goes down, right? And that's a bad thing for 99% of people unless you're a certified home buyer with Churchill, right? And because we've secured them at this level. So they already know their worst case scenario. Yeah. And so they get the best of both worlds, honestly. They don't have to worry about if rates go up, but they also get the benefit if rates go down. Yeah. So it's a win-win.
So good.
And so that's how we position. And a lot of times, I think the national average is it takes 7 to 8 offers to get one accepted. Which is a pretty bad. Well,
they're working with the wrong realtor. No,
it just goes to show how good how good you are with your offers. But
absolutely.
Our average is the 1 or 2 offers get accepted. And I think for a realtor, that's super important because think about how much time you're saving writing offers, showing homes, and then how many clients after a couple offers don't get accepted drift off to the sidelines.
Yeah,
right?
And it's an emotional toll on them. And so I think that's so important. for buyers to realize how much strategy truly does go into offers, especially in a competitive market. So anything we can do to structure a strategic offer, and there's so many different ways we can do this, it makes or breaks the difference. Because I mean, we just beat out, gosh, I went up against 8 offers, which is a lot for our little valley. I mean, it's not San Diego County or LA County. Those are 20 plus, 30 plus offers on a home. But for us, that was quite a bit. And we were up against multiple cash offers. And because of how we structured the offer, and it was not the highest, to your point,
Right.
It was not the highest. We beat out other cash offers that were, I think, 20, 30 grand higher because of our offer. So there's so much strategy that goes into play here. And us two, our sides have to work hand in hand together. So having a strong team in place just
Who
really
you work with matters.
Yeah, it matters so much.
Should we talk about NAR? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the NAR news and what the latest is and what your thoughts are.
Absolutely. So I did just discuss a little bit of this with Jessica Foote as well, the broker here. So I always have a very positive mindset on all of it, just like anything else. Yes, it's,
Where does that come from? I'm curious because you are a very positive person.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's a full deeper conversation.
Yeah, let's go.
My joy comes from the Lord. But no, honestly, I think I have a very problem solver mentality. Like if there's kind of like you touched on, if there's an issue, it's more of like, okay, let's focus on the issue, but what is the solution? So I'm very solution oriented. No matter what's thrown at us, okay, everything's going to work out type of thing. There's no victim mentality. It's like, let's just hustle and get it done and see what happens. So I come from the mindset of, okay, the NAR issue, quote unquote, is I have so many thoughts on it. The NAR opportunity, exactly, is honestly just a chance for us to educate ourselves on it, find out more about what's actually going on from the source, and be able to educate ourselves, as myself as the realtor, and be able to educate my clients on it and what that means. So yes, we will have to shift a few things on the back end, but honestly, that's okay.
Yeah.
Change is not a bad thing. It's the people that get afraid of change and so stuck in their ways and can't adapt and overcome. They're the ones that are going to fall by the wayside. And honestly, just like anything else, I feel like this kind of shakes out the agents that aren't providing the value to begin with. But you should already be doing that anyway.
Right.
So I think the cream rises to the top. I think the best agents that are doing good by their clients, providing the value and being there for them and getting them top dollar, if it's the listing side or getting them, the most value on the buyer side, that's what it's about, and maintaining those relationships. So it doesn't scare me. Yes, it's kind of annoying, to be honest, but I think it's just staying on top of it.
Yeah.
So,
and there's constantly things in the industry that are changing. And I think this is just one of them. Yeah. And I think, there's a lot of sensationalism and headlines about it.
The headlines kill me.
I think the headlines kind of, the whole point of headlines is to get eyeballs and
exactly.
clicks.
They're doing a great job at it.
And they're doing a really good job at it. And a lot of times the headlines don't show the full truth. No. And they're just trying to get traction for ad revenue or whatever they're doing. So,
but that's what the public sees.
I feel like everyone there's this huge buzz, and there might be some changes, but I think as a realtor, you just have to know what your value is and be able to express that to your buyers up front. But I think everything's going to be fine.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a wild game, but it all works out. And again, I think it's just important to have those conversations and be open to it and not get all, lost in the mix of it. The headlines are what kill me though. Like I mentioned, it's just like anything else. It's just the attention grabbing. But that's what the public and buyers, specifically home buyers, see. And so I think the more that we can kind of combat that with the truth, the actual facts, not getting lost in all the, craziness of it. I think sticking to the facts and then just overcoming it is what we need to do and not give in to the drama of it. Yeah. The drama is what I can't stand. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. So I'm glad we touched on that though. Yeah. What is either a crazy story that you've had or maybe a success story that you've had that you'd like to share that you think might resonate with some home buyers?
So many stories, lots of success stories. Yeah. I think one kind of crazy client that I helped was, they're both the husband and wife are deaf. Okay. And so it was really challenging to have a conversation with them. It was almost like speaking to someone in a foreign language, because whenever
It is,
they
yeah.
called me, there was an interpreter. And I don't know exactly how it works, but I think they were doing sign language on their end and the interpreter was talking to me. So it's just super random and
Yeah.
super challenging, but it was totally fine. Like, we
Absolutely.
texted a lot and did a lot of email and talked on the phone a couple times through the interpreter. And
That's so neat. I
Yeah.
actually love that.
Yeah.
I think that's so unique. And I'm sure you like learned so much through that experience as well, right?
You just have to be like super good with communication to make sure they were good, and
Absolutely.
it worked out fine.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
I think one other success story, there's a client that I talked to, and she was told, and this is maybe one of the myths, but
Oh, yeah.
you need to have 20% for a down
Why does
payment.
everyone's okay? Let's just stop for a moment and bust that myth that you have to have 20% down to buy a house.
I feel like, I don't understand. I feel like everyone has busted that myth for years, but for
Yes,
whatever
but
reason,
yet some people still like stand by it.
people still stand by it. So anyways, she's been told that for years, and she didn't have 20%.
Yeah.
Right. But we had a conversation. She's like, I think I'm probably, a couple years away.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, let's figure it out. And we talked, and I said, you are so much closer than you think you are. You have great income.
Yeah.
And all we need to do is save a little bit more for down payment, and we can make this happen.
Yeah.
And sure enough, 2 to 3 months later,
Yep.
she moved into her first house, and she texted me, and she was like, I am so thankful that we had that first conversation. And she's like, I want to buy you a huge gift, but she's like, I'm just going to tell all my friends and family
Yeah.
about you.
That's the best gift
And
you
I'm
could
like,
have.
that is even better. Like,
Yeah.
so just the fact that, that's what I love about what I do is I'm able to guide and educate and help make it happen for people even
Yeah.
when they think they can't.
Exactly.
themselves.
How often do you find, like when you do your buyer consultations or your discovery calls, how often do you find that people are coming to you that, maybe think they can't buy for some time, but it turns out they are actually closer than they thought? Is
Yeah.
that super common?
Yeah, I'd say probably, I don't know, one every 20, like maybe 5% of people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are, if they don't feel like they're ready, they're not
They're
going
not
to have
calling.
that.
Yeah.
They're not going to have that call.
Yeah.
So it's the people who are doing the right thing and
Yeah.
who are bold and not afraid.
Yeah.
That's a whole separate conversation,
Yeah.
right? Like, we all have our comfort
Yes.
zone, and trying to step out of the comfort zone is scary, but a
Yeah.
lot of times, you have to.
Exactly. Well, that's like the moral of this story today. Break down that wall and just have the conversation, because it's best to at least educate yourself and know your options.
Totally.
And, if you don't end up buying a home for another year, that's okay too.
Totally.
But then you at least know your options
Yeah.
and what that looks like.